Hello, and hello everyone. Good evening. Thank you all for being here to listen to our stories. So, like Andrea, I have written down a few notes this evening. I thought it was really important to capture each different stage of my journey, and I didn't want to accidentally miss any information out. So, I will apologise in advance for reading off some notes. So when Soundfair first approached me with the opportunity to actually come on tonight and share my journey, I must admit the theme itself I found actually quite daunting. The theme of diagnosis the first day I knew almost shut me down fairly soon, to be honest, but then I thought a little bit more about it and I realised the importance of actually addressing this particular theme, particularly for a person with a new diagnosis. Had I known then what I know now, I would not have had as long a journey and as painful as a journey that I had. So I think it's really important that we are here this evening, and I do thank Soundfair in advance for actually challenging me with this particular theme. So this evening, what I hope to do is take you on a 7-year journey, of my own, from diagnosis to healing. I aim to explore some milestone firsts along the way and also share with you some formidable findings throughout those years that I experienced. So for me, my hearing loss journey began in 2015. I'd actually been away on a school camp with a whole bunch of very, very active and excited children. And consequently, as a result of an exhausting week, I came back run down with a head cold and a sinus infection. Now, part of that also was a blocked ear. So for those of you who have been swimming and you've had that sensation of that blocked ear feeling or had a head cold where you've had that blocked ear, basically that's what I was experiencing. Slowly after around a month, the blocked sensation disappeared, but I never felt as though my hearing actually came back to its full normal. Then again, exactly to a year to that date in July 2016, exactly the same thing happened, following yet again another school camp. This time, it probably took me around 3 months of trying all different things to try to clear that blockage. I tried antibiotics, sinus sprays, decongestants, inhalants, and nothing was working. So eventually I went along to my GP, who referred me to an ENT doctor, who sent me off for some scans. Now, this is my first I knew moment that I'll share with you this evening. This was when my hearing test came back with perfect hearing in my right ear, but moderate to significant loss in my left. The MRI that the ENT doctor had sent me for actually showed an acoustic neuroma of around 2 centimetres in size. For those of you who don't know, an acoustic neuroma is a benign tumour that starts to grow on the part of the ear, the cochlear part of the ear, and unfortunately starts to grow in towards the head and the brainstem. So I was referred instantly to a surgeon at the Alfred Hospital, where I was very, very fortunate to get the head of the ENT unit at the Alfred, as well as the head of neurosurgery also at the Alfred to actually undertake my surgery. I was actually given at the time 2 different options in terms of surgery. One surgery potentially may have preserved what hearing I had left in my left ear, but it didn't give the surgeons a very good access route to the actual acoustic neuroma. So I opted for a different surgery that unfortunately would leave me with no hearing whatsoever in my left ear. I did have to sacrifice my hearing, and I did have to risk several other things, such as potential facial paralysis, which I did have temporarily, but thankfully that has rectified itself now, but the hearing sadly never will. So the strange thing, I guess, for me at the time as well, prior to having my surgery, was I identified I had a loss of hearing in my left ear, but I did not realise to what I guess, extent I had hearing loss. I actually thought at that point in time it was fairly significant. And this is where I bring you to my next I First Knew moment, because following surgery, which was 11 hours long, as it so turned out, it was a very extensive, long surgery with full removal of the neuroma. It wasn't until after the surgery that I realised how much hearing I had actually lost. I hadn't actually lost, how much I actually had, but following surgery, how much the difference it was between no hearing and what was remaining, is what I'm trying to say. So part of the surgery also for me was having to have my balance nerve severed in order for the surgical team to reach the tumour. So another first I knew moment came for me when I realised I had absolutely no balance whatsoever. I spent the next 2 days following surgery unable to open my eyes, unable to sit up, unable to move to a sitting position, and certainly unable to get anywhere near standing. Every time I would open my eyes and attempt anything of the sort, the room just did complete 360s. And it was extremely uncomfortable and would certainly make me feel very nauseous. The poor young physiotherapist at the time, who would come to my bedside on several times a day, didn't stand a chance in the first 24 to 48 hours. I actually hated the sight of him because of how he would make me feel by trying to encourage me to do the right thing. But I was told the quicker that I did the right thing and got up and got moving, the quicker recovery would be for me. So within a couple of days, thank goodness, I was up and about, very slowly moving around. And at the time, I think I felt like I had climbed Mount Everest. So after 5 days of being in hospital and trying to somewhat adjust to having single-sided deafness, it was time to go home. And this was where I guess I had my next I First Knew moment, because life as I knew it had gone. And I had to begin a new life. It was a new me, and I had to discover what that meant, what it looked like, not just for me, but for those around me and for my professional working life as well. I knew that there would be limitations on me in terms of what I could and what I couldn't do. I'd always been an active, fit person, and something like this just knocked me for six emotionally and physically. I would sort of go out for short little walks around the block to try to recover some balance and to try to bring some normality back into my life. I did a lot of balance exercises, which I sourced for myself, either online or from an exercise physiologist who I had engaged with prior to my surgery. I guess my new norm took some adjusting. It took some adjusting too. I found my new norm actually very exhausting, because the physical act of having to try to listen so much harder was extremely draining, physically and emotionally and mentally. I would go to bed in the evenings absolutely exhausted. Everything that I seemed to do seemed to exhaust me so much more as I went through that adjustment phase of my new norm. A month after losing my hearing really came, I guess, my next I First Knew moment, when I began to notice a much more widespread impact of my hearing loss in my left ear. And it really dawned on me at that point in time, when I began to get myself more out into community, how inconvenient it was going to be having single-sided deafness. And I actually thought, well, my hearing in my right ear was good enough and I would cope. But all of a sudden, I realised it wasn't going to be that easy. Neurologically, things just weren't the same. I had balance issues, and sounds were no longer being filtered properly. I also had tinnitus happening in the deaf ear, which sounds bizarre. And I remember asking my neurosurgeon, would the tinnitus go away after I had the surgery? And he said, likely not. And I asked him to explain to me, how can a deaf ear have tinnitus. And his explanation, although quite comical, I guess, was very straightforward and understandable. And he said to me, it's basically your brain's way of telling you that it's not getting the same signals and the same sounds and the same sensory input. Therefore, it creates a party of its own. And that's why you're getting the tinnitus sounds in the deaf ear. So unfortunately, I had the deaf ear with the tinnitus interfering with the good ear. Now, my next I first knew moment really did stop me in my tracks. And I can't remember how far into my journey this happened, but I know it was very soon on. I'd gone back to driving, which was 3 months after surgery. So it was probably soon after that. And when I say it stopped me in my tracks, it gave me a huge wake-up call, because what actually happened is I nearly got myself run over. So I was in a car park, and nobody told me to actually look left when I was in a car park. I just instantly crossed the road and almost got myself knocked over, because didn't realise there was a car coming because I didn't hear it. So nobody talked to me about safety. Nobody talked to me about the difficulties I would experience in noisy environments. Nobody talked to me about the need to strategise before socialising. Nobody talked to me about the awkwardness of having to say, pardon, I'm sorry, could you repeat that, over and over and over. Nobody talked to me about the social isolation that may present itself after hearing loss. I wasn't given any guidance in terms of how to navigate my new normal, and I wasn't given any strategies as to how to overcome community challenges. I also wasn't given any exercises to maintain or improve my balance other than the ones I sought out myself. I had to independently source all of this information whilst navigating a whole new me. I wasn't provided with any emotional wellbeing support either to overcome my loss, and nor were my family given any information in terms of how to best communicate with me or support me through this. My hearing loss journey, I guess for me, certainly has presented its fair share of challenges. And I like to liken, I guess, this journey for me as an educational experience that's really facilitated some new learning for me, which I'm always very keen for. Certainly a lot of acquisition of knowledge and skills, as well as some new values and habits. I've had to, I guess, retrain myself and those around me. I've had some great opportunity for storytelling, such as this evening. And I've met some wonderful people along the way as well, which have certainly, supported me and encouraged me to continue on with the work and the storytelling that I'm doing. And look, to be honest, as time has passed, I have come to accept that this is my new normal, and even to an extent become somewhat grateful for this experience. And I know, as difficult as it has been, it has led to some growth for me, some personal growth that has helped me to become more resilient. And I'd like to just finish off this evening with my first I knew moment. And that really is to recognise the new pathways in my life that this opportunity has brought. I now work really hard, as Lou mentioned, in my business to advocate for people with disability within community, to have more inclusion and better opportunities. Leading and living with disability has definitely improved my level of empathy for others. And I'm now able to identify with the challenges that other people face throughout life with their own disabilities and challenges and look at it from their perspective now that I'm living that as well. And without a doubt, and with the supportive help of organisations like Sound Fair and those around me who have also supported me throughout this, I now have the confidence in my ability to heal and to overcome the obstacles and challenges of hearing loss. So thank you for letting me share my story this evening, and I look forward to talking to people again at the end.